You're listening to the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. I'm Allison Boyle, aka She Dreams of Alpine, and this is the show that's dedicated to all the adventurous spirits out there who have either been transformed by the outdoors or are interested in what it looks like to step into a new, adventurous, and courageous kind of identity in their life. It doesn't matter what your background is in the outdoors, what age you're starting at, or where you grew up. If you're curious about the outdoors and using adventure as a way to reinvent yourself, you're in the right place. I'll be sharing all kinds of personal adventure stories, lessons I've learned from the mountains, teaching what I know about the outdoors and leadership, and interviewing some amazing adventurous women all along the way. I've been coaching women on becoming safe, confident, and self-sufficient backpackers and leaders of their own adventurous lives since 2018, and I know exactly what big fears and self-doubts can pop up along the way. I have so much to share with you, so let's dive in. Hello everyone, it's Allison, and before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to just kind of give a quick announcement. So I'm taking a little summer break from the podcast. I've got some very exciting personal adventures planned for the summer and also some really epic client trips that are coming up on the horizon. So this pause is really just to give me and my team a little space to breathe and reset and focus in other areas of our business right now. But I didn't want to leave you hanging with nothing to listen to over the summer. So I am going to be sharing something really special. I'm going to be sharing a behind the scenes audio series from my hike on the John Muir Trail. So my husband Michael and I set out to thru-hike the John Muir Trail back in 2020. So that is a while ago now. We were aiming to finish it in 22 days, but due to some massive wildfires and a full national forest closure, we had to bail early. This is something we definitely didn't expect. So this series, for some reason, we decided to record like a daily podcast back then. This was before I even had the podcast. But this series is going to be showing you a real, raw, behind the scenes audio that we recorded on the trail when we were out there doing the John Muir Trail as we dealt with all the highs, the lows, the relationship dynamics, and also the huge disappointment of getting kicked off the trail early in 2020, and then our eventual comeback in 2021 to finish it. So if you have ever dreamed of hiking the JMT or you just love a good adventure story, you are going to love these sort of like bite-sized episodes that are coming up of our kind of behind the scenes trail diary. This is something that I've never released before. So I really think you're going to enjoy this, and it will kind of like fill that, adventure itch that you might be getting while we're taking a little break from our normal episodes. And this series will run through about mid-August, and then we will be back with fresh episodes on the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. If you're listening to this kind of midway in the series, be sure to go back and listen to previous episodes. But at the end of the day, I hope you enjoy this and that it's a nice little kind of thing to get you excited about your own adventures and maybe even eventually pursuing the John Muir Trail one day. All right, let's dive in. Hello, you guys. This is Allison and
Michael.
So this is our first actual recording for this kind of JMT podcast, and what our idea behind it was like that we could give you behind the scenes of kind of our thought process on the trail and our day to day, and kind of like journal some of the things that our experiences and stuff. And I don't know, this could be the worst thing ever, but it could be also really cool.
I think it'll be cool. I think that it'll be worth, somebody will want to listen to it at least once just to pass the time.
Yeah, but anyways, this is actually like day 0 for us. So our first day is technically tomorrow.
Bright and early.
Yeah, it's August 28th. It's a Friday. And we are actually starting south and heading northbound on the JMT. So we're starting at the Cottonwood Pass Trail and then connecting to the JMT from the Cottonwood Pass Trail.
For those of you, let's explain for those people that wouldn't know what the JMT entails. So technically it would start at Mount Whitney, or the Whitney Portal, and end in Yosemite.
Yeah, that's like the technical trail.
Yes. So we're starting a little bit south of that, right?
Yes.
Like how many miles would you say?
Roughly 20-ish miles of south of Whitney. It's just easier to get permits, to be honest.
Yeah, it's pretty common, right? So
Yeah.
we're adding about 20 miles, and then we are also facing something
Yeah.
that has thrown us for a loop, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And so yeah, how many miles on average are we going to be covering, and how long are we planning? How many days are we planning to take to do the whole JMT?
So our original plan, at least, is to spend 22 days hiking the JMT, and we don't have any 0-day plans, which 0 day is like when you take a rest day, essentially, and you don't do any hiking. We don't have any of those planned, but we are pretty, like, Michael and I are fairly flexible in our schedule, so if we needed a 0 day, we could take it. But we're hoping to just do it in one shot. And I think like our daily mileage, it ranges day to day, but I tried to keep it around the 10 to 12 miles per day range because, you know, these kinds of things are already sort of sufferfests, and I wanted to like also enjoy parts of it too. But like, you know, there's all kinds of enjoyment in different types of challenges, and we have some friends that recently just did it in 12 days, which is hardcore, and hopefully I'll get to interview them.
Which, yeah, congrats if you guys are listening to
this. Yeah, congrats. You guys are badass. We're doing it a little bit slower, just out of choice.
Yeah, I mean, I've never hiked this long.
Yeah.
But based on the mileage we're doing a day, we're not doing this off the couch.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of activities, including hiking and mountain biking and climbing.
And we've been living in Mammoth at elevation, so we're pretty well adapted to altitude as well. So we're not like super concerned about, you know, taking it slower the first few days to kind of get adjusted. So, but I feel like this is a good segue into like what we've been concerned about the last few days.
Well, hold on real quick. How much is your pack weight?
When we weighed it back in Bakersfield with everything in it, it would weigh 29 pounds with my water. But I did make a few adjustments today. Like I added a pair of shorts and I added I was only going to carry a liter of water, but I think for the beginning part of our trip, I'm going to start off with 2 and just see how it goes. And then maybe later in the trip, I'll just be carrying 1. But also our pack weight's going to get lighter, like each day, because we are carrying like 6 days of food right now. So I'm pretty happy with like 29-30 pounds for 6 days of food. Yours was, how much was yours?
It was 36.
Yeah, with estimating water.
With 1 liter of water.
With 1 liter. Are you
Both of ours was with 1 liter of water when we weighed it. Now like you said, we have 2 liters, but if there's as much water resources as people say there are, I'm happy carrying 1.
Yeah. It just varies along the trail.
Yeah.
So you just kind of have to like look ahead, and I think we'd be fine.
For the most part, we'll be able to do 1 liter. I have camera gear I'm taking with me with lots of extra batteries and a fishing pole and some extra fishing gear, all of which is very light, and external battery charger for my headlamp, because my headlamp...
We both have external batteries. So.
Yeah. It's true as far as that goes, but that's where a lot of the extra weight comes from. And then we split the tent weight between us 2.
Yeah, we split everything else, tent weight and all the things. So
yeah.
But okay, so the last few days,
well, I've been trying to build up the suspense.
Yeah, the curiosity.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of you might know, if you live in California, there have been, like, in the last 2 weeks, there were some thunderstorms and aka some lightning, and then I feel like there's over 500 fires in California right now, right?
Yeah,
something like that.
It was like 300 plus, and then last I heard it was 500 something.
Yeah, which is insane. California is burning all over the place.
California is on fire.
But most of them looked fine until there were these 2 fires south in the southern portion near Sequoia, I forget the name of the two individual fires, but they have joined together and become like a super fire. I don't know. I'm making up that term.
Yeah, well, they converged, and now they have a new name for both the fires.
It's
which
called
is now
the SQF fire. I didn't want you to say it because you keep calling it the SQR fire.
I do.
I don't know why.
You forgot the complex part.
Okay, it's the
It sounds way
SQF
cooler.
complex fire. And it is 0% contained currently. And every day, like for the last week, I have been like obsessing over fire data, checking the maps, checking its growth, checking the air quality, and all of that.
A little backstory: we went to Bakersfield where my parents lived to drop off some stuff and to pick some stuff up before the trip, and the fire had just started, and it was literally probably like, I don't know, 100-yard visibility the whole way from Mammoth Lakes to Bakersfield, which is a 4-hour drive. So the entire place was equally smoky. And then when we were in Bakersfield for those 3-4 days, the smoke kind of cleared a little bit. And then on the way up, this fire had started. That other smoke from when we went down was from other fires, but this fire had started, and it was very blatantly clear that it was just east of the Sierra or west of the Sierras, because there was a huge blanket
of smoke.
Like now it's kind of everywhere. Like it kind of around the evening you could see it's everywhere.
Well,
but
it just sort of depends
we saw that,
on the day and the wind.
Yeah, it depends what time of day and all that. Yeah, we saw that, and my dad has sent me a text about that there's a fire in the Golden Trout Wilderness. Well, this fire is now what?
It's like 24,000 acres or 23-something thousand acres when we checked, and now we don't have service anymore.
That has burned up.
Yeah.
But it is currently, as the crow fly, what? It's 13
Yeah, last I
miles?
checked, as the crow flies from our Cottonwood Pass Trail, it's only like 13 miles as the crow flies. And yesterday it grew like 2.5 miles. I mean, I'm just using Gaia app to like estimate these distances, so don't like quote me on this, but 2.5 miles it grew on the map. And so,
So our biggest concern when we reached back, when we got back to Mammoth, which we still had 2 days before today, that we spent finishing up planning and packing. And the fire kept growing and growing by, what would you say, it was 2,200, 2,500 acres a day?
Yeah, something like 2,000 acres a day.
And the weird part about this fire is that it's about southwest of Cottonwood Pass, but it seems to be the fire moving northeast, so it's coming directly in this direction. So it's been a huge concern. Typically, people in California know that the winds come from the north, but in the Sierras, it's a little bit more scattered, and maybe that's why it's causing it to come this direction. And I just talked to my buddy who was a hotshot in a smoke jumper, and he said we got opinions from a lot of people, including rangers and strangers online that were just on the trail. But something that stuck with me is he said a lot of the times they'll let these fires burn out to get rid of all that fuel if they're not immediately heading to people's homes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that might be the reason why it's still 0% contained. It's because they want it to burn. Now,
well, let's first talk about okay, so we've been obsessing, or I have really been obsessing. Like I've been in all the and I feel like it's this extra thing because as a backpacking coach and in my backpacking program, I always teach my students to preventative measures of their safety, always be thinking about their safety and how they can prevent things from happening. And this is kind of like that same scenario we're in, and we're like, well, we don't want to put ourselves into a situation that's going to be sticky, but we also want to do this hike that we've been planning for the last year.
So that being said, what were our options? What options did we have on the table?
So we ended up a day ago. We're panicking because we have all these shuttles planned and we have all this stuff planned. and we're like, okay, we need to make a choice. And so we laid out some options, and we came up with like our first option was to cancel. Like, okay, I'll give you a little backstory. Originally, we were supposed to drop our van off in Yosemite because that's where we're ending. And we were going to take a Yarts bus back to Mammoth. And from Mammoth, we were going to get a shuttle to the Cottonwood Pass trailhead. But with all this uncertainty, and we wanted to wait it out a few more days, we decided to cancel that shuttle. And that way we could take our van up to the Cottonwood Pass trailhead and see for ourselves what the smoke is like, and also be able to have like an escape route really easily with our car. And so like if we headed out and then we saw like it was just too bad, we could turn back around and come to our van. Like, we wanted that option.
Yeah, whether it was too much smoke to hike,
or just didn't seem safe,
or just the fire was seeming to, inevitably head this direction. Because the other concern was, okay, the smoke is not that bad. Well, let's say a few days down the road, even though we're hiking away from the fire and we're safe, what about the van? Is the van going to catch on fire? Because this place is pretty woodsy, and maybe there's not as much fuel on the ground, but this place it's dry. I mean, it's California. This place would definitely easily catch on fire. So that was a big concern, was the uncertainty of what could potentially happen to the van, which is our home right now. We're living in it full time. So
that was option one.
And then
option one kind of like gave us more options. Because we would have the van, it like kind of opened up other options for us. And the second option, like the other option we were going to do is, I just looked online that day and I found some permits for Shepherd Pass Trail, which is north of Mount Whitney. We were like, well, worst case scenario, we'll hop on a little bit north of the fires.
Again, Whitney is very hard to get permits for.
Whitney is super hard to get permits for.
Why we couldn't consider it, and
especially
really,
last minute. Yeah.
Especially last minute, even though it would have been ideal, because that's that much further from the fire, and it would have been not as much of a concern. But
I will say, like, Shepherd's Pass Trail isn't our ideal choice of like first day on the trail heading towards the JMT, because the Shepherd's Pass Trail is like 12 miles long and 6,000 feet of gain. It's super gnarly.
And it's not the most commonly used way to enter the Sierras, unless you're trying to hit certain peaks that are only accessible.
People like, whenever I read about Shepherd's Pass Trail, people take that to get to Mount Tyndall and Mount Williamson, but they always refer to that trail as like their least favorite entry into the Sierras. So that just kind of says something about the trail.
So that would have sucked. And then there is
that would have sucked because we would have been north of the JMT, or north of the JMT proper, like southern point, which is Mount Whitney.
So we would have missed out on the first,
20-ish
miles. The first day would have been brutal.
Yeah.
And there's not even that many water resources on that hike.
Yeah.
And we've never been there, so as far as leaving the van, we don't know how much of a concern leaving the van there for 22 days would have been. But
that was our second choice. So, I mean, that's our second option, and really like the best option that we had. But so basically those were our options. It was like come scope it out here, or start a little bit further north with that new permit that we got. So ultimately, we drove up here today, and it's a little bit, it's like, what time is it right now? It's like 5 p.m. right now, and it's a little bit smokier now, but when we drove up here, it was very clear, and it kind of gave us some hope. And we also got to talk to some people coming off the trail, and also like we've been hearing, because we've been monitoring Facebook groups, and I've been hearing just a lot of people had conversations with rangers today saying that, the smoke is bad, and if you're sensitive to smoke, you probably shouldn't do it. But, you know, they're still issuing permits and they're not telling people like, don't do it, you know? So we've ultimately decided after being here for, you know, the last 5 hours here at the trailhead that we're going to give it a shot. So.
Yeah, I think given all the people we've talked to and talking to people who have just come off the trail not too long ago, literally within the last 24 hours, and seeing it in person is why we ultimately made the choice to just go ahead with it.
I think like some of our unknowns at this point is like how our bodies will like react to the smoke in the air. I mean, it's not like, honestly, this reminds me of Bakersfield, to be honest. But I mean, like hiking in this kind of conditions like could be like hard. That is why I'm bringing 2 liters of water, because I'm like, maybe my body will need more water in these kinds of conditions, and so like I wanted to pack extra. Also, we're bringing in 95 masks that we had to also help if it gets bad, you know, like we can at least put those on. And
there was some people said there was even ash falling at one point.
Yeah, like apparently, and from the webcams and all the research we've been doing, it ebbs and flow. It just depends on the wind conditions. And honestly, we're just going to give it a shot, and we're going to try to do as many miles as we can tomorrow to put us as far north as possible. So we're at minimum doing 14 miles, but we may be doing upwards to 20 to get us to like Crabtree Meadows.
Yeah, it'll just get us out of the smoky area a little sooner. I mean,
hopefully,
like we said, there's even on the drive here, the smoke is kind of all along the Eastern Sierra. So, but you know, I think if we plan it right, things tend to be better in the mornings until about 3 o'clock and so. So that's plenty of time to make headway. And
we're gonna get a very early start.
Yeah,
we're leaving at like 5. We're gonna head out hiking by 5 a.m. So
that if you want to go an extra whatever many miles, we can, do it with minimal smoke.
Do you have any big concerns? Like, what are you thinking? How are you feeling?
In regards to the fire, or just anything?
Everything.
No. Besides the fire, I mean, that's obviously the thing that's consumed our minds, because that's something we did not plan for.
Yeah.
But so far it's looking good. So we're going to be able to start where we wanted and when we wanted. So far so good there. Other concerns. So I just got 6 stitches on my leg about a week and a half ago. And long story short, I fell mountain biking, and I had to get 6 stitches. I just wear your knee pads, kids. This was at the bike park in Mammoth. And so I didn't break anything. I was actually lucky. I'm going to use those words, believe it or not, because I was able to walk away from it, meaning I could still do the trail. But I'm just gonna try to keep an eye on it and hope there's no soreness that comes out of nowhere, because after I got those stitches, we've been kind of taking it easy with any sort of exercising. So it's gotten better and better, and it's to the point now where I don't even really think about it. So I don't think it'll be a concern, but I just kind of hit my kneecap a little bit, and nothing feels loose or broken or anything, but I'm just talking swelling and stuff like that. So that's my only other concern so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like
I am bringing a knee brace, which I wasn't going to, even though I have issues with
Michael
my other
has
knee.
History of knee issues.
Yeah, like torn meniscus and stuff. It's been a while, and my knee's done really good, and with many miles of running and stuff like that over the years. So I wasn't going to bring anything, but now I'm bringing it. It's not that much extra weight, so
yeah.
I think it's, necessary evil.
I think for me, like, I don't even know what my concerns would have been if this fire had not been here, because like lately my brain has just been entirely on the fire, like obsessive compulsively checking fire details like 10, 20, 30 times a day. And now we're at that point where it's like we're out of service and we're going to have to just take each day at a time and make wise decisions. We know all of our exit routes, exit points. We have, my best friend is, we have a SOS satellite device. It's the Garmin InReach Mini. Every day I'm going to be checking in with that, and she is going to be keeping tabs on any of the fires, and if any new fires pop up, she's going to be sending us a message, just keeping us updated about it if we ever need to exit the trail. Like if something new popped up down the line and she's like, hey, a fire up north just started, like you should probably turn back around and exit, wherever we are, we can kind of like figure that out via the satellite messenger. So
it's a good reason to have that, besides just
yes,
in an emergency, but just to get updates.
I always recommend, like, to my students, this is like something that as soon as you can afford it, like it's so worth it having an SOS satellite device, and especially if you're going to be doing things solo, like just having that peace of mind and being able to check in with your safety person who knows where you're out on the trail and out on, what your itinerary is, and you can check in. Because what's also nice is like every day we're going to send a preset message, and it's going to my parents, your parents, and two of my best friends, just because I hike with them a lot. So they're like my hiking nerd friends that I just always send them that data. And we have preset messages that we send, and I think one of them is everything's going okay, or everything's going good, still on itinerary. And the other preset message is slightly off itinerary, but everything is okay. And the other one is Michael caught a trout. Because I didn't know what to put for the third preset message, but we get 3. And Michael brought his fishing pole, so...
Yeah, that's an inside joke between me and my parents. Just because they saw us pack our food, and I told them, they kept telling us how impressive the meals that we were bringing, and I was like, this is nothing compared to the trout I'm going to be catching. But that's a funny joke because
he hasn't caught like one trout.
Absolutely nothing in Mammoth where we've been staying and stuff as I practice, because I'm not a fisherman, so
he's an aspiring fisherman.
Yeah.
So we're hoping he has better luck and that this isn't just dead weight that he's bringing.
I heard the backcountry is a lot more fruitful, and I've heard that from everybody. So it's just Mammoth, the fish, it's overfished, I guess, but they haven't restocked a lot of the lakes. I mean, it's just like, the stuff that happens during a pandemic, I guess. Things like that get put off, and it's no one's fault, but
shoot, I mean,
I think there was like some fish hatchery too that like had a breakout of some disease, and they had to euthanize a bunch of fish. I don't know.
We should talk about that. This being a pandemic, in case anybody ever listens to this down the line. Like, the year is 2020.
Yeah.
And we're currently in the middle.
On fire, and there is a disease trying to wipe out the human race.
Yeah, we're currently in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. Something we've never experienced before in our lives, Michael's life. And like, just the world is weird, and
there's been other pandemics, but it's small, and they didn't
not affect us. Like, I don't remember anything affecting my life
in the
like
world.
this.
Yeah, in the world.
Yeah, like you can't eat inside. You have to eat outside. Schools are closed here in California. People are working remotely, which for us, it's like we always work remotely. But anyways, it's just interesting. And so, like, we have to carry masks on the trail. I mean, not like we're going to be hiking in masks. Well, we might because of the smoke. But we have to, like, if we go into towns, it's like you have to wear masks. That's a new gear item to pack. But we're using our buffs. So, like, that's not... But
we have 2 other masks too.
Yeah, we did. Because we weren't.
Like, they weighed nothing.
The N95s we weren't originally going to bring.
That's true.
But yeah, and then also like that's been interesting with the resupply situations and shuttles. It's made JMT planning all kinds of interesting. Certain places are like closed down. But also I was just going to say, like, I'm super excited to do this trail. This has been on my bucket list
for a long time
because my very first backpacking trip ever, if you know my story, you know, it's like I was kind of invited by chance with some friends to do the Half Dome Trail in Yosemite. And that was my very first experience with backpacking. I'm from Texas. And so like, you know, I had never done anything like that before. And it literally changed, like it sounds dramatic, but it did literally change the course of my life because then I became really passionate about the outdoors. I mean, like, it started off slow at first, but that is kind of the trip, that catalyst for everything for me.
We considered doing it in 2 weeks when we had corporate jobs because that's, you know, it would have been hard to take.
Yeah, so I've been like dreaming of the JMT for a long time, but it's always just felt logistically complicated because we used to both work 9-to-5 jobs and we would have had to use all of our vacation to do it. And at the time, you know, like when we first started dating, we also wanted to do world travel and it was hard to like...
Yeah, just spend all vacation in one
spot. On
one thing. Yeah, I wasn't... I mean, I'll be honest, it wasn't like a... It's been a bucket list item for as long as... Yeah, we've been dating. So I completely understand that. But yeah, for me, it wasn't as big of a... So I wasn't like as... You know, I wasn't driving for it as hard as you.
Michael's not as into Well, I mean, it's not that he's not into backpacking, but you have like a lot of other passions like mountain biking and climbing.
My ambitions for things I like to do were, in other things.
Yeah.
So, and backpacking is one thing I never say no to necessarily, or usually, so unless there's something going on or conflicting, but it's not that I don't like it, it's just ambitions wise, I didn't have like a list of things I wanted to accomplish backpacking. So, but I'm excited. It's been crazy how fast the last month has gone, and now we're here.
Yeah, but anyways, like I wrote a whole blog post too, about 15 reasons I was excited to hike the John Muir Trail. So if you're interested to kind of like get a more behind the scenes peek at that and kind of what drives me, definitely check that out. You can go to my blog at shedreamsofalpine.com and learn more about that. But I mean,
otherwise you should have about 22 more of these. We're going to do one every day.
Each day, yeah.
Right now we're in our van, but the following episodes will be from our tent.
From the trail.
Or maybe by a log, by a lake. Who knows? By some trout cooking in the fire.
But yeah, I'm sure we'll have a lot more to say about our experience on the trail, but basically just looking forward to it.
We'll see how it goes day to day, if we can keep it interesting.
All right, well, that's a wrap, you guys. So we're just going to end this one now, and thanks for listening.
Talk to you on the next one.
Hey, I wanted to thank you real quick for tuning into the show and listening all the way to the end. If you love this episode and you want deeper support in becoming a safe, confident, and self-sufficient hiker and backpacker, then head over to shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist to learn more about our Backpacking Badass coaching program, where I teach you absolutely everything you need to know to be self-reliant on the trails and stop waiting around on others for the adventure invite. So I'd love to help you more in your journey of stepping into your adventurous identity, and that program is the absolute best place for us to start working together. So again, that's shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist, and you can learn all about it there. So that's it for today, folks. I hope you get to spend some time outside this week, and I'll be back very soon with a brand new episode. Bye.